Hey, what's up? I kind of want to talk about something in a book I was reading. This video is more going to be about the soul. Um, so basically, the brain has pattern recognition in the same way that your dog or cat or whatever can see, not know nor understand or whatever other semantics. I mean this in the simplest, most elementary way possible, right? Um, your dog or cat can see that when it poops inside, right? If it's potty trained, maybe you let it poop inside. I don't know. But when it poops inside, it experiences some type of pain, whether that be physical or emotional, from the owner, right? The owner probably you don't want your dog to poop inside, so you probably put it outside when it poops, right? Or you punish it. Maybe you hit it, which I would say is not super great, but right? It understands that pattern, right? This dog recognizes the pattern, and this dog is no different than a computer in that way. The computer doesn't understand the language, binary, or ChatGPT. It doesn't understand the language it produces, but it recognizes the patterns. It's coded into it, right? Now, again, I want to clarify that by recognize, I mean this purely in the way that the dog or computer doesn't understand it, but it just can do it. It recognizes it, right? Whenever I use the word recognize throughout this video, I mean it in, I'm not referring to understanding something, to genuinely, right? Like Chinese room experiment, you can search that up. That's what I mean by recognize. It just can see this, right? See the physical, right? And I'm not trying to make some claim, right, that traps you in a corner. It's not a trick question. It's very obvious that the brain can recognize patterns. A baby recognizes that when he or she is hungry, he or she needs food. And that's the most basic level of pattern recognition, which is probably more instinct, to be honest. I just wanted to give something very obvious, right? Honestly, it's probably more instinct and barely pattern, but like I just am really trying to get that point across, right? Because I don't want there to be a semantical disagreement, right? Or misunderstanding, I should say. Um, and that's fine. But what I want to do is apply this concept that I've just given you, the pattern recognition in the brain, to a book I'm currently reading. The book is called Emmanuel, written by Matthew Connolly, and I think it's a really good book. I've been reading it. It's about Christianity, how it is the one and only worldview that isn't based on blind faith, and I think it's really good. It's pretty objective. Uh, it's not. There's not much mental gymnastics, but anyways, I there's something in it that I think is wrong, or I don't agree with, but I'm not sure. I also want to point out that I have the same beliefs as the author, who is my dad. My dad wrote this book. Um, you know, I it's not even worth trying to explain myself that it's not biased. But basically, I'm a Christian and I believe that humans have a soul, right? But I also that believe strongly that churches and Christians often only produce arguments which help them. They often hide away the harder arguments, like errancy of the Bible. There's some things that are very hard to cover, and a lot of Bibles or churches just kind of push it to the side. They don't really want to talk about it because it can push people away from the faith, right? I I I hate this, right? They ignore it, and I hate it, right? I'm gonna be super transparent throughout this whole channel, and any arguments I think of on this channel. I want to state now that I am not about to support a Christian argument because I don't currently have one, or a good one, right? I don't know how to respond to this anti-soul argument that I may have come up with. I didn't even search if it's an existing thing. It probably is. It's very rational. Um, and it's all about pattern recognition in people. Now, back to what I was saying in Emmanuel, the most important point, or so it seems to me, I'm not going to say that is, right? I'm not going to try to tear it to shreds with this and say, dude, the whole book's wrong. To me, it seems like it comes up quite a bit, but I don't know. A big point, at least, is that humans can conceive immaterial concepts. No? Right? That's something that separates us from animals, right? We can't see a number. We have no idea what the number three is. There is no physical representation of someone. I mean, yes, you can have three pies, but like if you just take the number three at face value, what is that? You know, we don't know what is three. What does it look like? What's it smell like? Anything. We have no idea. We have no clue, right? And so for a lot of Christians, this is pretty much like a slam dunk for belief in a soul, which also includes creativity in people, right? Because how your brain, I'd say it's fairly presumable to say that your brain only understands physical things, right? Like a dog can't understand what love is, you know? It's inconceivable. It doesn't have that reason or whatever you want to call it, right? But I disagree. I think it does the opposite. I think, it's my approach is mostly rational, right? I say that because we have math and unlike every other animal on the planet that we know of, this is exactly why we are only a brain. Like other animals don't have math, or that we know of. It's pretty obvious they don't have math, right? Humans have math. But I think that this actually proves more the point that we are only a brain and a carcass. Basically, what I'm trying to say, stop beating around the bush, is that we have complex pattern recognition. As stated before, dogs have pattern recognition, meaning humans do. Probably to a higher degree, but I'll do my best to stay away from that presumption, though not entirely. Here's a short syllogism for what I'm saying. Dogs, under the presumption that they have no soul, have pattern recognition. Dogs have pattern recognition. Humans have a brain, like dogs. Now, it is more complex, but both have a brain, and a human's brain can do everything a dog's brain can do. Now, whether it can do things better or not is out of question, right? The brain, I'm yapping. All right, dogs have pattern recognition. Humans have a brain like dogs. The brain has pattern recognition in humans and dogs alike. That sounds fine to me, right? And this is a fairly simple statement. However, I feel that I must delve pretty deep into semantics for this argument. Sorry. Basically, like, I just don't want any misunderstandings and stuff, because this argument is very easy to misunderstand what I'm trying to say, you know, and that will just tear it completely apart, right? Because of this syllogism, we know that our brains understand that the word three means an amount, right? I'm not saying that three in itself, we can understand that. I'm saying that, like, when you think of three, right? I'm sure when I said earlier, like, what is it? You all said, if we have three apples, that is three, you know, that it's a pattern, it's a concept, right? This is a pattern that we have created or discovered. I'm not going to be discussing the discovery or creation of math. That'd be a long video. Let me know if you want me to make one about that. Curse me. Anyways, because of this, our brain does recognize patterns in math. I've said this like 20 times. Meaning math, being a concept, is represented in the physical world through patterns. So our brains are the organ which processes math, right? Not the concept, like math on its own, right? I mean, I'll explain. You're probably questioning, like, dude, you're just separating it, you're just ignoring the concept. I'll explain this in a little bit, right? But for now, I'm more talking about, like, math. I'm kind of ignoring, like, the genuine, like, face value concept of math in itself. And I'm saying that, like, when you apply it to the world, like, our brain is what does that. It's not our soul. Our brain is what applies math, right? Or uses math. Maybe not applies math, right? But it uses math. Your brain does the math. Now, because we cannot represent the actual soul idea of math or whatever in any conceivable way it is not associated with pattern, right? Like the what I've been saying, like the thing you just can't explain what math is. And because of this, that would mean that we can only conceive pattern. Does that make sense? Right? Our brain conceives the pattern. We can only understand math in physical representation. Meaning, and when you ask what is math in itself, we have no idea. We can't give you an answer, which would mean that we only conceive pattern. It means if it isn't pattern, we don't know. Because I'd say math is probably the most complex thing. I'll also talk about creativity in a second, right? But this would mean that our brain, or at least it sounds like to me, that we are only our brain and our soul doesn't exist. And here's another example of what I'm saying with something like creativity. It is common to say that humans are creative. Most people would agree. Not everybody, right? But it won't really matter who agrees with that or not in a second. But because of this, we say it is unique to humans to create, for example, art, right? There's no real value. You give art to an art piece, the Mona Lisa, to an animal, and it's like, I can't eat this, I can't survive with this, I don't care. To us, we're like, whoa, right? It doesn't serve any value, right? Same goes for money. An animal has no care for money. A beaver, for example, in terms of creativity, was blessed with an amazing, innate, maybe learned. It doesn't really matter whether it's innate or whatever, right? But the ability to build dams, right? No humans can, but like no other animal can do that, right? Or it can, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like its brain. You know what I'm saying, right? A beaver has never thought to build anything else, anything artistic, maybe statue. Maybe they had a cool dude that started like a cultural revolution. No, they never did that. They just build dams and they die eventually. This would mean that humans are creative and animals aren't, right? Wrong. I say that beavers are doing this to survive, or it's innate. Essentially, it is for the well-being of the beaver or its tribe. Whatever, right? Don't take that too deep and don't overthink it, right? Again, I have to talk about semantics because it's so easy to misunderstand what I'm saying. The beaver's end goal, if it can even conceive an end goal, is to achieve some greater good for itself. Now, again, do not take that too deep. I may have articulated it in a bad way, but I mean it in the most elementary way possible. It wants to survive. You know what I'm saying? It wants to reproduce. It's just doing that because it just does it, It has an end goal of, I'd say it's fairly reasonable to say that all animals have the end goal of reproducing. I'd say that's like the ultimate thing, right? And dams, I don't know much about beavers, but it plays some part. But like, I'm just saying, like, there's an end goal to every animal ever, right? It's trying to do something, whether it can conceive that or not, I don't know. Well, I don't think so. But now I want to mention the human brain is about like 3 pounds on average. I just searched this up on Google. It might not be totally accurate, but of course it's going to be pretty close, right? And a beaver's brain is 43 grams. That's a huge difference. That's a massive difference, right? A human brain has trillions more neurons than every other animal on the planet, even monkeys. Like a human brain is much more complex. Like we know close to nothing about the human brain. I mean, we know a lot, but like compared, like relatively, we know like nothing. There are trillions more neurons in the human brain that we still don't really know anything about, right? And sorry for the presumption, but I'd say it's fair to say a human is more complex than a beaver because of this. Yeah, it's a very logical approach. Not to mention that a human brain is like a lot more like organs within that brain that it's like it's bigger too. It's not just heavier; it's bigger. Like it has more organs in it that like a beaver's brain just aren't in there. Like it just doesn't have them. There's 3 types of brain. There's the reptilian brain, the limbic system, and the cerebral cortex. And I'm not going to bore you with this, but for example, like dogs have the limbic system, which is like the second. Humans are the only one with the cerebral cortex part, right? And this allows for like emotion. A dog, if this might be new to you, can feel happy or sad, which is just hormones and stuff, right? But the understanding of this, I don't know. I don't think a dog like understands that, but it does feel happy. It gets those chemicals in your brain. It does get dopamine and stuff, right? And they do feel this, but a reptilian brain, it doesn't. Or it might be a very simplistic form of emotion, but like some like maybe I don't know a ton about this, but like maybe a reptilian brain does have dopamine, but like more complex emotions, it just doesn't have it. It literally just, it is impossible because that brain, it's just not a part of it, and I really only, sorry, a reptilian brain does not really have that, but there is like pain and stuff, right? And that's physical. And I only brought that up to show you that brains are different. Like they really are different. I just want to make that clear, and do produce very different qualities which affect the mind or again, take that simplistically. I'm not trying to trick you with a word, okay? If I am, I'll tell you, to be honest with you. Now, as I was saying, it is presumable, very logically presumable, to say that a human has more complex pattern recognition because of this, because of the trillions of neurons, because of the huge, much bigger size, because of the more complex emotions, all these things. I'd say it's very presumable to say that there's more complex pattern recognition. To what extent, I don't know. And I'd also argue that all human endeavors aim for the person's happiness. I think that everyone's end goal is happiness. I think it's individualistic. I think everyone is actually aiming for individualistic happiness. Yeah. Now, because this is such a complex end goal, like I couldn't tell you what happiness is. I couldn't give you a definition. It's very complex, right? That would mean that the means to achieving it are very complex too. Complex things require complex solutions. I don't know what I was about to say, to be honest, right? But basically why I say this is because humans creating art is for the goal of happiness, meaning it does serve a purpose. It might not be so physical, might be a lot more conceptual, but it's for an end goal, right? Meaning it relates to pattern recognition. So humans creating art is for the goal of happiness, meaning it does serve a purpose, and it is not creative, but merely a mesh of all these whatevers, you know? And again, I can't, I just thought of this, And that's basically what I'm saying. It's not a sound argument. And there are plenty of lapses in reasoning and plenty of presumptions. And it's good enough, but it is good enough to leave me without an argument which I believe outweighs this argument. I don't really know if this argument already exists or not. I think I said that a few times, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it and stuff. And, like I said, there are several gray areas. Like I said, all these whatevers in the brain make art. It's like, how do you explain that, dude? I mean, you're kind of just leaving this very important part, but I just say, I mean, dude, I think it's just pattern recognition. Through experience, we can see that humans have crazy pattern recognition. We try to fit in with each other. I'd say that's pattern recognition. I don't think that's part of the soul. Patterns, right? I don't think the soul deals with patterns. I think it can deal with immaterial things, right? But like I just said earlier, that like I can't really think of something immaterial, and anything I do think of, I don't understand. Meaning, does it? Yeah, I really don't have an answer. And like I said before, this channel is obviously promoting Christianity and things, but I do not ever want to fall into the pit of hiding these arguments, because again, like I'm saying this truthfully, like I just don't know. If I come up with something against this, or one of you comes up with something, I'll probably make a video on it, because I don't want to just leave this out in the wind. This is very important. This is less about like Christianity, just a God, And again, you could bring up these other arguments like fine tuning of the universe and stuff. And there's some good like arguments that are for God and some that aren't. And yeah, I don't know, but that's really all I have to say about this. Please tell me if you have an answer, because this argument's like it's troubling to me. I really just I don't know what to say to it. I hope you like the video. I hope that you don't, I hope that you don't take this as whole, right? Because I might have this argument. I don't have an answer. I don't. I've said this like a billion times, but that doesn't mean I'm just denouncing my faith right now. I still believe this because it takes time to come up with answers. And I thought of this literally 30 minutes ago. I wanted to bring this up while it's fresh in my mind. Yeah, I'm gonna stop wasting time here. But I'll see you. Join the Discord, please. I'm begging you to join the Discord. It'll be in the description. You can just ask questions. You can DM me. You can ask general chat. And if you're kind enough, give me video ideas. I'm struggling to come up with genuinely authentic video ideas right now. So just please let me know. And I also want to say that my 2 or 3 most recent videos before this one All of them weren't like that. I try to put editing in. It's kind of hard for me right now. But yeah, sorry. Okay, I always do this. I just don't end the video. All right, see ya. Hey, what's up? It's future bookshelf here. This is after the making of this video. I just wanted to. I had like two things kind of to say. One is that I made a playlist uh on the channel. They're not my own videos, but it's kind of like real world like proof per se of like the Bible. You know, obviously you can't prove it, but it's like I don't know, like not, it's not like subject to interpretation really. It's just kind of there, like Noah's Ark, that type of thing, right? So they're mainly just shorts, because I feel like if you really do want to know more, you should do your own research. You'll learn a lot more that way, and you'll just have a much more concrete understanding because you just found it your own. You know it's not just made up and stuff. Um, and yeah, yeah, subscribe.